What's going on, y'all? Straight to the point, sports and entertainment. I want y'all to hit that like button, sub to the channel if you're not a member, and also hit the notifications so that you're able to get all of my content as well as all of my videos, okay? Now, there's a couple of the guys that done talked about this already. I'm pretty sure y'all have heard. Now, when it comes to Shannon Sharpe and what he's been doing and the work that he's been putting in, even with the people that have doubted him over the years, Shannon Sharpe is making history along with his guest, okay? Now, he's been successful just as much as when he was playing. And, you know, for football, what you have to understand is that they know who you are in football, but that's usually because of the helmet in your jersey, unfortunately. More so in basketball, you see the actual person, but you don't really get to see the personality shine, so to speak, in football because of the way that that sport is and always being covered up. And so some of these guys you don't even know, but some of these guys do actually have, you know, a personality on them. And, you know, a lot of the guys are, you know, pretty intelligent outside of the game of football. Having said all of that, Shannon Sharpe has really taken a platform and has made it equal to and about to surpass what he was doing in the game of football, okay? Because the Cat Williams interview is on pace, well on pace to do close to almost, I think, 80 million views. Okay. Now I haven't checked the numbers. I think the last time that I did check it, it was at 60 some odd views, 60 some odd million views. But the reason why I did say that is because we all know, and if you're not a person of good common sense, then you need to go study what it means to actually be successful, because with success there also comes the flip side of everything, and that is jealousy, there's envy, there's hate, bitterness, evil, deception. Everything that you could think that's negative comes with the success. So since Shannon Sharpe has been doing these record-setting interviews and has also had plenty of guests on his platform, you have a guy in Stephen A. Smith who at one time was very respected by a big portion of the black community. Okay, now not so much. I mean, at least in the LDBC, you know, guys are cooking him on a daily basis. You know, it seems like, especially where he lost even more credibility is when he decided to go there and try to destroy the brother Kwame Brown's his character, so to speak, and who he was as a man, but not realizing that he actually made his payday. But that's a whole nother topic. I talked about that before. Shout out to Kwame Brown. Stephen A. Smith, man, he comes off as if he's down for the other brother. He comes off as if he has you know, your back and everything, which is what we thought the intent was, him bringing over Shannon Sharpe to First Take. But really, in all honesty, it's been the complete opposite. Stephen A. Smith, man, is a person that wants to garnish pretty much all the attention, but he's not really necessarily going to admit that. Shannon Sharpe is becoming more and more by the day. He's becoming the voice as well as the face of ESPN, whether people want to believe it or not. When Shannon Sharpe was first on First Take, he would come there periodically, sometimes as a fill-in. Sometimes it would be for Stephen A. Smith, and then sometimes, of course, it would be for Skip Bayless when he was on ESPN. And through that time, he was able to go through the circus. Now, even before that, he was on mainly the football platform, but they didn't respect Shannon Sharpe, his way of being an analyst, and the way that he talked, his lingo, his mannerism, things of that nature. It just wasn't respected. They wanted him to be a certain way. Everybody's not going to be a Michael Strahan, unfortunately, when they talk, and while they thought that it wasn't going to work in his favor, he ended up some years later being able to come to Undisputed, and that was after the First Take and him, bouncing around. He was able to come to Undisputed and be able to do phenomenal numbers over there with Skip Bayless as a great debate show, and competing with First Take. And whether people want to believe it or not, Undisputed was actually kicking First Take's ass in numbers a lot of times. Okay, now of course they were still, First Take was still leading, at times, because of course ESPN is the quote unquote worldwide leader of sports. Although that right there can be argued, because they have been diminishing for some years now. But getting back to what I was saying about Stephen A. Smith, when Stephen A. Smith had saw, the opportunity, he did everything he could to jump on it. Okay, and let me tell you why. Because Stephen A. Smith has been, he's really been diminishing as an analyst. Okay, a lot of people are getting kind of growing tired of Stephen A. Smith and what he does, and even though he's working like a slave, but that's pretty much what he wanted to do, because he had already said that he wanted to make the majors more money. He said he pretty much gets up out of bed thinking like that, and everybody knows that. Okay, and I know some people are going to try to argue with me, and they're going to try to sit up there and they're going to try to say, oh, okay, well, straight, He's got his own podcast. He's had his own show and all of that. Yeah, he's done those things. Right, you're exactly right. But at the end of the day, he's still working his tail off for the master. See, with Shannon Sharp is completely different. Okay, now he had to do what he had to do, but Shannon Sharp, his whole goal was to make Club Shay Shay its own entity. You know, where he didn't really have to be under anybody. That's the whole with the whole Fox and all of that stuff. That was something that he created. Okay. Stephen A. Smith saw that. And is he jealous of Shannon Sharp? Yeah, I think he's jealous for several reasons. But what it all boils down to is his gravitation towards that audience that Stephen A. Smith is truly yearning for. The audience that Shannon Sharp is reaching, that is actually tuning in to Shannon Sharp, is an audience that is in agreement to what Shannon Sharp is actually doing. However, the audience that is in agreement to what Shannon Sharp is doing is actually opposed to what Stephen A. Smith was doing, when at one time that same audience that Shannon Sharp has right now, one could argue, was at one time with the way that Stephen A. Smith used to do things, right? Case in point, when Stephen A. Smith, before he had got let go of ESPN the first time, but then eventually they brought him back. Before he got let go, okay, Stephen A. Smith was on, I think it was NBA Tonight, back then. Back, I think, when it was on ESPN 2, okay? And Stephen A. Smith also had, quite frankly, okay, that was the Stephen A. Smith that a lot of the audience, they had yearned for. He had his own show, things of that nature. And I think Stephen A. Smith back then probably had his own intentions of having his own entity, just like what he's doing today. And of course, he's always had been on Sirius XM, doing radio, things of that nature. But he had always worked for somebody. He was always working up under somebody. And now that when he came back to ESPN, he changed up. He changed up. A lot of people felt like he had sold out. And one of the biggest things, was, a lot of people had kind of swept up under the rug for a minute. But it was what I mentioned about Kwame Brown. And when he was saying all that stuff about him and stuff, and he didn't think that was going to come back and bite him in the ass. But it did. And not only did it bite him in the ass, like I said, it made Kwame's payday. It made him a phenomenon on social media. People can debate it. They can do all that they want to. He was doing numbers. Now, let's fast forward to what's going on right now. Okay. Shannon Sharp has came over to First Take. Okay. And I know people are going to bring up the fact that Stephen A. Smith had reached out to Shannon Sharp, and to come over to First Take, things of that nature. But Shannon Sharp was already going to make moves anyways, whether it was with First Take or without First Take. Shannon Sharp was going to go somewhere regardless. But the thing about it is, Shannon Sharp is a team player. I know people are going to say, well, he brought him onto the show straight. Why isn't Stephen A. Smith not a team player? You can pretend to be a team player all that you want to, but then see, you can have a ladder, right? Okay, you can have a ladder, and you could be at the top of that ladder, okay? And a person that is trying to climb that ladder, it's all good when they're sitting at the bottom of that ladder, right? And you're sitting at the top, right? And you're thinking that that person's never going to get up there. They're probably struggling, probably fell off the ladder a couple of times, right? But the minute you see that person starting to gain ground on you, so to speak, starting to climb closer up to the top of that ladder, there's nowhere else to go but to jump off of that ladder. So what do? It's just so that person won't throw you off that ladder. Guess what? You're going to kick that person down, or do everything that you can to kick that person down. And that's the kind of the toggle that you see right now. Listen, the fact that Shannon Sharp is doing these numbers right now, doing crazy numbers, and more importantly by a black man, okay, doing record-setting numbers that some of these other races aren't able to do on this internet, right? On this thing that we call the internet, which you are just a touch away, a thumb click away. That is phenomenal, and it's also infuriating for some of the majors, some of the networks, which also would include some of the people that are on those networks. Shannon Sharp is becoming more and more increasingly the voice. He's becoming more and more increasingly, the favorite person that people want to hear. You know, they've kind of tuned Stephen A. Smith out, so to speak. More and more people want to get interviews with Shannon Sharp, when there was a time when they never thought it was possible. And also, I want to talk about what somebody had to say, too, about the whole journalism comparison, saying that Stephen A. Smith has all this journalism and stuff like that. Well, people have to understand that Stephen A. Smith at one point in time, he couldn't, his reading and his writing skills weren't up to par. Okay, and so he had to learn some things. Okay, he had to learn some things. And look, everybody struggles with something. That's not really something. That's why I'm not going to go in that far on him. But don't think that just because your journalism history and your accomplishments in journalism is so much better than that of Shannon Sharp, who was just seen as just a Hall of Fame NFL superstar player, and that's it. That probably couldn't be able to cross over to doing something like being a TV analyst or being in journalism, things of that nature, because now that he's doing something, that's phenomenal, in which you thought, oh, okay, well, man, how was that possible? Now you're like, oh man, I got to do something. So what you do is you indirectly try to hate on this man, okay? And you hate on this man by pretty much shitting on the interviews that Shannon Sharp has been doing, okay? we know what you're doing, Stephen A. Smith. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out what you're doing. Okay, you could sit up here and say that's between the comedians and all this other stuff, but the fact is that you still had the nerve to criticize Monique. Listen, Monique and Cat Williams, not Cat Williams, okay, so much, but really Monique had been trying to tell people for many years and they didn't want to listen, right? So when Cat Williams went ahead and told everybody everything, and it was in a way that was phenomenal too, because what did Shannon Sharp do? He let him speak, not cutting Cat Williams off, and just letting him speak, letting him talk. That's why, like when people try to compare him to Wendy Williams, that's a stupid comparison, because that's not Shannon Sharp being messy or anything like that. He's actually doing a style where, okay, let's say for instance, you're in an interrogation room with two guys that are trying to investigate, a crime or something like that, and they're interrogating you, they're asking you questions, they're just letting you talk and let everything be said, and then next thing you know, you come and you either try to I ain't gonna say cross-examine, but you question that individual on some of the things in which you had gathered, some of the information that you had gathered or whatnot, But that was after you letting that guy or that girl or that woman speak for some amount of minutes. Well, that's what the situation that was going on with Cat Williams. Okay, and there might have been some questions, but he didn't cut him off. He let him speak. Stephen A. Smith doesn't do that. And a lot of times Stephen A. Smith cuts people off when they're talking. I mean, listen, Monique came in there and she said what needed to be said. And the reason why, and it's not just, Stephen A. Smith that's feeling away about it. It's other people that are, starting to come out too and say, hey, wait a minute. You know why? Because now these guys, and this woman and this man I'm talking about, Cat Williams and Monique, okay? Now I'm talking about them. What they have done is they have capitalized off of this now. And now that they're doing record-breaking things, guess what? They get the last laugh in the end, including Shannon Sharp, who's getting the last laugh in the end. When at first they were trying to laugh at Shannon Sharp. Oh, this guy will never make it. The way he talks, his mannerism, he's too loud. There's some people that try to criticize him and say that he's ghetto, ratchet, and all this other stuff. Just because he, doesn't do it the way that they want him to do it or whatever. But more increasingly, they're starting to like him. Now look at Molly. At first, Molly was like, oh my God, wasn't letting Shannon Sharp talk, cutting him off. Now Molly wants to hear that. Shoot, and look at who's sitting right next to Molly, during the Super Bowl. It's during the Super Bowl weekend. It's Shannon Sharp. Now, I might be reading into it a little bit too much, but at first, it would have been Shannon Sharp, somewhere else. People want to hear from Shannon Sharp now, He's doing, even when it came, so as far as when with the makeup thing, Shannon Sharp could have went ballistic, could have went crazy, could have turned, no, he owned it. He said, man, they were killing me on social media. And guess what? He did numbers right there. So they underestimate the intelligence of a guy like Shannon Sharp. And through the underestimation of the intelligence, he has taken a platform like Club Shay Shay and has made it truly a phenomenon. And Stephen A. Smith, he can't handle that. He can't handle that. Now people, they're hungering for more. That's what I'm saying. People are mouth-watering for more interviews. They want to see people come on. That now, in the beginning, people had looked at, oh yeah, just fly-by-night interviews. But people want that juiciness, that confrontation, that controversial conversation that comes up that people don't necessarily want to talk about. And Shannon is able to do it on his platform. So, yes, to get back to what I was saying, sorry about that. Stephen A. Smith is jealous, okay? He's jealous. He's jealous of what Shannon Sharpe is doing, okay? And he knows that his time is coming to a close. Stephen A. Smith, his time is starting to come to a close at ESPN. All right, they're looking for new, fresh faces. Now, am I a fan of ESPN? No, and I don't like the way that some of the things that ESPN does now. Me myself personally, I was messing with Fox for quite some time, but then even they're starting to change some of the things that they do, okay? And that's why we have a platform such as the LDBC. I would rather look at a guy like Ticket TV, before I look at ESPN. I would rather listen to a guy like the one LVZ, No Buck Dancing Allowed, before I actually go listen to CNN News. I would rather go to the general 7-8 sports and be able to, see what's going on with boxing as well as Blue Blood boxing, Monty TV, everything boxing and sports, Town Biz, just to name a few of those guys. I would rather go to them as a source for boxing instead of looking at something on TV or other platforms on the internet or apps or anything, because I know that I'm gonna get the real, right? And I would rather listen to other debate shows, and go listen to some of the guys within the LDBC, because we know that you're going to get the real, and some of these people, some of these guys are going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you and challenge what you're talking about. They're not just going to let everything, fly on there. It doesn't take away anything, that some of those guys are doing, but, at the same token, let some of those guys get on there. And let's challenge you. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that because they know they're afraid of losing. They're afraid of hurting their image. And right now, Stephen A. Smith, he feels like his ego is being shot as well as his image. Now he's going to try to sit there and play it calm, cool, and collected, but we all know he's shaking in the shoes right now, because Shannon, he's continuing to grow. So that's my take on it. I want to hear from y'all. Let me know what y'all think about this. Make sure y'all like the video, share it, subscribe. Also hit the notifications too. Until then, it's straight to the point, sports and entertainment. Y'all let me know what y'all think.